Hey, who is that? Is that a listenal of a podcast? It is? Well, golly gee, welcome to the show. My name is Max Booth. I'm a host, and you are listening to a podcast called, what is it called? You know what it's called. You clicked on the name. You should already know the name, but in case you missed it, or you forgot, maybe you have terrible memory issues. I do as well. The name of the podcast is Ghoulish. And as I previously stated, I am Max Booth, a host. And on today's really special episode, I am talking to Jeff VanderMeer, author of the new book, Hummingbird Salamander. Now, are those just two different insects, animals, mashed together? Like the Fast and the Furious meets Jurassic Park? Maybe. You would have to read the book to find out. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but I will tell you one thing about this book. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Yep, that's right, folks. This is a novel Jeff wrote. It ends on the specific page. I'm not going to tell you the page, though. You're going to have to read the book and find that out for yourself. But I will recommend reading the book because it's pretty damn good, which should come to no surprise to anyone who has read Jeff's other books. I mean, this is the guy who wrote Annihilation. He wrote those other books as well, besides Annihilation. Acceptance, Authority, Acrobats. Didn't he write the Acrobat book? Dead Astronauts. That was a hell of a time, wasn't it? And now he's back with a book called Hummingbird Salamander. A book about a hummingbird and a salamander. And they become best pals. Best friends to the end, as the hummingbird says often throughout the book. Hello, I am Max Booth. I just made it back to my house maybe 20 minutes ago to record this intro, and then I'm going to edit the episode and then upload the podcast because it's Monday afternoon, and I got to get this episode out because I promise you guys Monday will be a Jeff VanderMeer episode of Ghoulish. Where was I? I was in Dallas for the Texas premiere of We Need to Do Something, a movie I wrote, and now I won't shut up about it. It went pretty well, I thought. It was a fun time. We saw it at the Texas Theater. I still don't know how to process any of this stuff, but it's been wild as hell. We did Tribeca on June 15th, and then we did the Texas Theater premiere on June 27th, which was yesterday, if you were listening to this podcast today. Although, to be honest, it is always today, and tomorrow is a concept, and it will never arrive. It will never be tomorrow, so stop living in denial, folks. It's always today until the day you die, and then it's yesterday. I think that's the way time operates. Can you hear that clock in my living room? It's telling me to end this intro because it's going awesomely, and it doesn't want me to screw it up. So hey, I guess I better just end this intro now and let you listen to my conversation with Jeff VanderMeer. You would assume we're talking about his new book, but you would be wrong because we are talking about sexy bugs, as I like to say, bugs you can fuck, fuckable bugs. I mean, have you ever seen an insect and you thought, oh boy, oh golly, if only I could make sweet love to that thing and not go to jail. Well, hey, I have the episode for you. Enjoy. Do you like giving interviews like this or nah?
Yeah, like this because I feel like it's not like we've ever met and I know you well or anything, but I kind of know your personality enough that I'm relaxed about it. It's the ones where I don't like it as much. But
We've met,
anyway,
Jeff.
what?
We've met.
When did we meet? When did we meet? Fuck.
This doesn't count as a meeting. It was a book signing at Book People, and I said, "Hello, can you sign my book, please?" And you signed it, and I walked away.
And you didn't say it. That's I think actually mentioned may have I can't remember. There's too many Facebook things, but I feel like you
Yeah,
may have mentioned that you didn't say hi or anything.
yeah.
So
I was feeling too shy. I only
yeah,
talk to people on Zoom because I can just
in a
click out
museum.
on museums and also
Oh
Zoom.
yeah,
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 yeah. Because
got it.
museums you can't talk. I think, right?
Right, or at
They
least you have to whisper. So
Yeah, and I don't know how to whistle. I wasn't
yeah.
taught as a kid. Like I wasn't taught how to whistle. I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
taught how to swim.
Mm,
Those are the two things. Do you
mm-hmm.
know how to do both of those?
I can swim a little bit. I do remember swim classes, which didn't. I don't really like to swim,
Mm.
but I can in a
I've
pinch.
I've seen swim classes in
Yeah.
movies, and they
Mm-hmm.
always just like they take a baby and just chuck it into the swimming
Right.
pool.
Right.
That
You're
seems
really supposed to, if you submerge a baby for like 3 hours, they know how to
yeah,
swim.
yeah. You just have to
Um,
keep the hand on the head. Uh,
um, I'm not actually endorsing this.
it is fell too late. I believe at the beginning of this podcast, I did mention in the intro that you haven't listened to yet. Anything we
Mhm.
say is something that you actively advertise. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great. So I do think there's a mildly attractive elephant in the room that we have to address. And
Mildly attractive elephant.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
you can use that as the title of a
okay.
book if you want.
No, no, thank you. I'm good.
Well, we'll give it some time and see how you think. um, do you? A while back, I had a run-in on social media with an interesting bug, and you commented. You
God.
said you told me the name of the bug, and I don't know what it was now. And then you
Yeah.
said, "Don't do anything to it," and I was
Hmm.
quite uh,
Yes.
surprised by this comment because what would I possibly do to a bug? The way you said this, it was like I'm known for just killing animals. So I said, Jeff, what am I going to do to this bug? And you said, I don't know. Knowing you, who knows? And then I replied,
But I
Jeff,
don't know you well enough to know.
we've
So
met at Book
an
People.
idle threat.
And my response was, Jeff, I am going to fuck this bug. And ever since then, I don't know. I think we began a friendship based off of this comment. So I have so I have to ask you: do you think
Most
I'm?
unlikely of friendships. Yeah.
It's pretty much like a buddy comedy movie. I would say. I
Right.
assume
And
it's going to end with us going on a road trip.
probably to some, yeah. But so I, yeah, yeah. So you have a question, or do you want me to just comment on that
I do have a
situation?
question, and you can
Okay.
also comment after I ask
Okay.
you the question,
All
which
right.
is typically how Q&As operate. I think.
It's been a while. It's been like 3 minutes since I've done an interview, so
Yeah, I know you love
I've
these.
forgotten.
So, do you think I, Max Booth, would ever make love to an insect?
No, no.
This is going bad.
But this is not actually this is not actually a dare type situation. It's a podcast, and podcasts are more benign than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because, and not to be too serious, but which is kind of impossible today anyway. But the main thing is that I get so many people posting still in my feed or wherever else about some bug, and how they immediately want to kill it or burn it with fire. So I'm
Yeah.
probably the initial impulse for that was simply that I had seen something else like that. I was like, no, not another one crashing a bug. We need all the bugs. But then also the funniest thing is, the other day there's another Max I follow, and I'm not going to say who it is, but I mistook you for them. I had probably had a couple of beers, and I made some comment about the insect bleeping in their feed on a comment on one of their posts. And thankfully, there was like a dead silence. Like they responded to every comment but mine. And then I realized it was the wrong Max, and I deleted it. And I deleted it obviously soon enough that I didn't get ratioed on Twitter for it. So context is everything.
Have you talked to this impostor of a Max? Have you talked to this
No.
fake Max? Okay.
No, I don't plan to. I don't plan. I think that the just much as with political scandals, the cover up is often the problem. The explanation in this case to the person in their DMs would probably be worse than
Yeah.
having just deleted the comment.
I thought you were a different Max who does do that. My bad. I just
Right, and it probably would have gone on. It would be like a rambling explanation. No, I really don't think that you would do that, other Max. And also,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that I'm calling you other Max, and that there's a Supremo Max out there.
I mean, who is like the one Max? There has to be like a Mega Max, an HBO
Well,
Max.
well, there's a secret Max too.
Yeah.
That I know that I won't go into,
That's okay.
but yeah, you are the Supreme Max on.
Oh, thank you.
Facebook. And
I don't even have Facebook, Jeff.
and who is the Max Booth the 12th that I'm talking to on Facebook?
I used to have Facebook, but I deleted it like a year ago. Yeah, it was a big scandal. It made headlines.
Yeah, I clearly noticed that.
Yeah, thank you. That means a lot to me.
I'm sure it does. Because then that actually means that you don't have to worry about any fallout from that scandal.
I mean, as far as I know, the conversation about bugs and what I do with them is still ongoing on Facebook. I just
that's
don't
true.
see
It is. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. And I did post there out of context a little bit, if you remember. And like Matthew Bartlett got it and a few others, but others were probably like, what the bleep?
A friend of mine, he mailed me a copy of his new book, the Pilodox twins, Joshua Chiplinski, and he mailed it to me from his house, and he made a fake jacket on it, and on the jacket was a Photoshop copy of me, and he included a fake like Advanced Praise blurb, and all it said was, "Jeff, I'm going to fuck this bug."
So this unfortunately has taken on a greater life.
It's made it to it's made it the physical media now. So just so you know, that's a thing that is around, and it's
great. Maybe it'll be a cryptocurrency one day.
Oh, what do you think it would be called?
Fuck this bug.
Coin.
I don't know. Maybe I don't have enough imagination.
Would you invest in that?
No.
I don't know much about cryptocurrency, but isn't it super bad for the planet?
It is actually, and Crypto Bro will probably respond to the post of this podcast to explain why that's totally wrong, and then I'll have to spend hours unraveling that. But that's okay. Yes.
Why is it
bad for the environment?
Why is it bad for it?
Just because of the fact that it takes so much processing power, and now you have Bitcoin miners who are actually taking over like abandoned natural gas factories and things like that, and starting them up again so they can power their Bitcoin.
Oh no!
Yeah, so it's it's absolutely absurdly, darkly absurdly terrible.
That sounds awful.
And the I think what's even more terrible, not almost as terrible, is simply the convoluted logic you see Bitcoiners, I assume that's what they're called, Bitcoinies, I don't know, but anyway, making their absurd arguments for why none of this is true, about something that is itself basically a intellectual or an invisible brain exercise. So anyway, yeah,
I will not invest in Bitcoin then because of you, and also because I don't have any money. So those two reasons.
Yeah.
Nice. You have a lot of money, Jeff?
No.
Okay, same. You often post on social media videos of wild creatures in the woods, I guess, or in your front yard. You might also just live in the woods. I'm not completely positive where you live. You seem to live in this grand utopia of trees and plants.
No, it's actually a suburban neighborhood where there just happens to be a small ravine that's wooded, and then there are houses all around the outside, the top of it. And so it looks like that because there's this trough of woodland. And certainly I do sometimes crop out houses from some of the photos and stuff. But it's also true that the trough of woodlands is just wide enough that it can house a lot of wildlife that feels comfortable going through. And also, we're on the side of town that just happens to also have mostly 2-lane roads right around here, and then goes out into a lot of wilderness. So that probably helps quite a bit.
Yeah. Have you what's like the oddest thing you've picked up on one of these videos?
Something I can't quite tell what it is. I actually posted on Twitter saying that it was the Gullux from James Thurber's 13 Clocks, which is this never seen creature. But I think it was just the haunch of a possum at a weird angle, and the possum maybe had mange or something, so it looked more like a chupacabra. I'm not sure exactly what the hell I was looking at. And there have been hints of creatures beyond that. I've never seen a coyote, but there are little hints, eyes that don't look right in the backdrop and whatnot. That potentially could just be a lurking neighbor, or whatever. So,
Do you think like obsessing over these videos, like posting them and stuff, and like making like funny like captions of what they could be, has that influenced any of your writing, would you say?
I think, well, we're like 3 years into this rewilding and being at this place, and so it's more. It usually takes like 3 to 5 years for it to really influence. But I think the main thing is that also because of the way the house is situated, kind of hugging this ravine, but also up in the canopy, meaning I can actually look down into the ravine from the living room, and I can watch the raccoons at dusk and see their interactions. Kind of like that scene in True Grit where they're on the hillside and they see the gun battle down below, but completely different. But the point being that I get to know individual animals, and I think that'll probably have an impact on fiction. And I try not to anthropomorphize too much, but at the same time, some of the funny captions have this real serious purpose, which is to kind of deprogram people from negative ideas about common urban wildlife that usually just wants to be left alone. So.
Yeah. Do you name them at all? Like, do you have secret names?
Sometimes the possums I don't name, even though I can tell them from their individual markings, because especially in black and white on the trail cam, you can really tell what their markings are. But for some reason, I never name them because they still seem more interchangeable. Like personality wise, it's hard to kind of grok, at least from the trail camera, individual animal traits. But the raccoon sometimes. So there's like raccoon mother, and then the tater tots, which are her offspring. That's as far as I've gotten with that. I mean, there's another raccoon I call Tattered Ear imaginatively because it has, guess what, a tattered ear.
Oh, okay.
And there's the traitor Jesse Bunn. Got a lot of backlash for calling the rabbit a traitor for eating the wildflowers. And then lately there's Lil. This is probably the limits of my cute abilities. Lil Buntastic, who's a little buddy who's very rambunctious down in the ravine.
Still.
So that's it's like at a certain point, am I crossing the Rubicon into a shitty Disney ripoff, or am I doing something that's fun for people? I don't know.
It's only a matter of time before Disney contacts you wanting to make this into an animated movie.
Really? Yeah, that'd be quite the interesting interaction. Yeah, I don't know what I'd say to that.
Well, look, we could role play if you want. I could be Disney. Hello, Jeff. Would you like to make an animated movie about the trail videos you have with us?
You can talk to my film agent for sure. We have a lot of interest from a lot of parties, including some of the raccoons down in the ravine. So,
interesting. We will do that. This didn't go the way I expected. Always bringing the agent in. Ugh.
That's right.
Yeah, you have to.
Shield.
Yeah, it's a good way to get out of doing something. That's why I went directly to you to ask about the podcast. I knew if
I did have a general ban. I said, anyone named Max, I said to the publicist at FSGS, anyone named Max, just don't forward it to me. I'm too afraid that there's going to be stuff about insects in it. So you're wise because, you DM'd me on Twitter and it was really kind of hard to squirm out of it. And here we are.
I asked you and you said, depends. And then you said nothing else for half a day. And I thought, what the hell does that mean? So I took a photo of a rabbit I saw on a walk. And I thought, I know how to grease this guy's gills. It works.
It did actually work, especially the fact you kept doing close up after close up after close up, even closer on this bun until you couldn't even tell what the hell it was. It might as well have been Bigfoot by the time you pixelated it down to the. But yeah, no, I mean, it's just, when I said depends, I think I was in a low ebb of energy. I mean, and you're never going to complain about doing too many things for a book, but it is true. It is extremely strange to go down into a room every night and do a Zoom event for like 6 weeks. And I am an introvert, but I do get some energy from an audience. So also doing them without an audience means I get no energy and I just get drained.
Yeah.
So I was probably thinking, depends. Am I going to enjoy this at this point, or am I not going to enjoy this?
Are you enjoying this, Jeff?
Sure. Let's say I am.
Oh no. I understand what you mean though about like having an audience, because I've done book readings on Zoom and I've sent them to YouTube and places like that, and I do not enjoy it. But I love doing a book reading like on a stage, like and soak in the vibe of an audience. That it helps you do the reading. But if you just do it alone in a room, it seems kind of creepy and perverted in a way.
Yeah, I mean, and I probably didn't do this to book people because I love book people, but the way that their setup is, it doesn't really feel like a stage to me. So it's a little harder for me to like do what I normally do. But normally what I would do is I would be there like 10 minutes early and I'd be talking to people in the audience. I'd be joking around. I'd be like my own warm-up act. And then get on stage and be fairly interactive. But it is interesting too, how even when you're doing a physical event, the actual specifics of what the stage is or what the location is kind of constrains or shapes how you're going to interact with an audience. And some of them I feel more free doing that, and others I don't shut down. It's just kind of like it just isn't the right space somehow. So
yeah, my experience with reading at book people is I emailed them one time and I said, hey, can we do a book reading? And they said, not right now, email back in June. So I waited in June and I emailed them and they said, oh, we don't have any room. And I said, oh, okay, thanks. That was it. So different experiences with book people.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it's like if you're local in Austin. It's like here in Tallahassee, it's hit or miss on certain things.
Yeah.
I no longer. I mean, I remember being invited to a Barnes and Noble event, and it turned out to be like their way of getting rid of local authors. Not physically get rid of them, but like instead of having to field request after request from local authors, like we'll just invite 32 of them to sit here like the postman from that Monty Python scene for an hour, signing books, but not really, because no one knows why the fuck we're here or who we are. So there's also that way. I do feel that there is sometimes a weird exotic quality to authors from out of town. No matter what. So it's sometimes I remember even in Gainesville, it was kind of like hard going sometimes to get certain places to notice. But yeah, I don't know what that means with book people. No.
I guess we have to cancel book people.
Don't you have a movie coming out?
Yeah, that's true. You did too. Congrats, by the way. I saw that. Annihilation. Great job.
Yeah. It's coming out soon. Really happy with how faithful it is to the book. Couldn't be happier with the casting. It's just amazing that it's going to come out next year and be in all the theaters, and just be so perfectly a reflection of the book, and not like someone like read half the book and then had a dream about it and then decided to make a movie.
Yeah, I don't see how it could be like that, right?
No, it could never be like that. I mean, and the kicker would be, and this is hilarious because this hasn't never happened. Hasn't happened. It's so faithful, but for the movie that's coming out. But the kicker would be is if you're not at all influenced by the movie Stalker and you actually find Tarkovsky really slow and boring. But it'd be hilarious if the director of the movie of Annihilation had been influenced by Stalker and had all kinds of visual checks in there, so that every time you did an interview just about, you had to be asked why Stalker influenced your book. That would be hilarious. But of course, that will never happen because this movie adaptation is so faithful. So
I have stricken something.
No, what are you talking about? It's all great. It's all good.
Yeah, I also have a movie coming out, so maybe we can compete in the theaters. That'd be cool. My
No, that's awesome. You know, it's funny, Max. I got to be absolutely honest. There's a lot of people who talk prematurely on Facebook about like doing a movie or doing anything else, and I was just so absolutely fucking impressed when you said this was you were going to do this and start working on this kind of stuff, and then it happened.
Thank you.
You know, honestly, like 99% of the time that you see that stuff on Facebook, and it's either bullshit or just too premature. So
Yeah.
I was really, really impressed with that, and I'm really looking forward to the movie. So
I don't think I said anything until I knew with absolute certainty.
yeah,
Okay, this is
that's
gonna
something.
film.
No, again, but
Yeah.
you know, I honestly I've seen people who've alluded to that kind of stuff happening, and
Yeah.
and it's not, and it's just so weird, you know.
I've seen it happen like, ooh, someone, a film producer just emailed me asking about the rights to my movie.
Right,
Hello, Hollywood. And
right.
then nothing
And it's like
happens.
some teenager, you know, who liked the book and has some friends and a camcorder.
Yeah, I've had
So
that happen. I've had like college students ask to
oh
like
sure, yeah.
option something for $200 to like see if they could do it. And like, if
Yeah,
nothing else is going on, do it. See what you can do.
yeah,
And nothing
yeah.
happens usually, and that's fine. But at least they try.
Yeah. No, and of course, the favorite thing is when they want to do a script or something and just do it on spec
Yeah.
and shop it around. Which, as a former and still full time, you know, writer freelancer, you know, who often did a lot of piecework for that, it just grates. Even though I know it's how Hollywood works, it just sticks in my craw, which is one reason why I haven't done any screenplays or anything, because it's always like, oh, if you write it, we can shop it around. It's like, if you pay me for the time, I'll do it. And
Yeah.
I know that's not how it works, but
It should be. It's awful. I think it used to be that way from what I'm told.
oh
That
yeah,
things changed, and now it's
yeah,
like you have to do everything up front, and on the off chance that they might get someone to buy it, but it's a pretty small chance. And then if not, you just get stuck with all this shit.
right. I mean, I still and then, you know, sometimes it's on spec and it's like really interesting. Like I never said this before, and this will be exclusive, but I actually did a treatment for a scanner series that never got off the ground. In fact, they one person liked my pitch and some of the others did not. I think the thing I was most proud of in it is that in my version of scanners, some of the telekinesis and and physical objects moving, there was like one scanner, a rebel scanner, that other scanners were trying to get to, but they couldn't quite figure out where they were except in a general location from time to time, because the scanner had like a shield around their mind, but it would break down every once in a while. So the other scanners, every time it broke down, they had a partial idea of where the other scanner was. It's a long ass explanation, but
Please go on.
anyway,
Yeah.
so they would concentrate their minds to like drop shit from the sky in that general location, like
Yeah.
depth charges for a destroyer with a submarine. And I was really proud of that innovation, because it was also hilarious. It's like on some county road, someone's driving by and suddenly a huge fucking safe just falls out of the sky.
It's like the only way you could see someone dying from a falling piano in a TV show that would make sense.
Exactly. And it would have been like the best scene. It would have been a scene that if Preacher was like a different kind of series would have been like perfect for the vibe of that show. But but I did take that out of the wreckage of the scanners treatment and put it in Lambset and change it from scanners to magic systems doing it. But
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
When
So
was
I don't know
this?
what we were talking. Oh, this was a few years back. It's like as soon as the Annihilation stuff like really got greenlit, suddenly everyone was really interested, and I wound up doing a fair amount of spec work that never saw the light of day. That, you know, sometimes I feel like, wow, it'd be really cool. I don't know what like the rules are. Like, I'd really like to at some point post the scanner stuff on my blog or something, you know, just because it was kind of interesting, like the setup and everything. And I also did it in such a way, and this is one way I try to protect myself. I did it in such a way that, like, the Scanners franchise, there's like not that much there. Like, there's not that much. It's not like a huge Star Wars Bible of like 1,000 pages. So I set it up in such a way that I could use most other elements because they weren't actually just scanner specific.
Yeah.
So that's somehow how I deal with these treatments, is I try to come up with something that's useful potentially, but also I can reuse if it's not, you know.
Yeah, that's really exciting, and also kind of like depressing, because oh man, a Jeff Vandermeer Seattle series, that would have been amazing.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's also possible I just don't know what the hell I'm doing, and they looked at it and they're like, "What the fuck is this? This isn't a show. I can't get 10 episodes out of this."
Maybe 9.
That's not how.
10.
Man, 9, maybe two long ones, which would be a movie. But anyway.
We don't make movies now. We only do
Yeah.
miniseries.
Yeah, I do want to do a screenplay for Finch, though. That I might do on spec. We'll see.
Cool.
So.
Has there been like interest in that?
No, it's just that I was thinking about what the sequel to Finch would be, which is set like 20 years later with some of the same characters, or 10 years later, and I knew it was going to be a graphic novel because it has so many character points of view, and I feel like that's better for. And at the time, I wasn't thinking movie or TV because I was like, how am I going to get that made? So I'll make it into a graphic novel. But then I thought, with some of the other interests that's out there, maybe if I do a script, maybe that would. Because I think the thing that the script would show too is that it's scalable. Like, yeah, you could have giant mountains of fungus and buildings made out of fungus, or you could have something that isn't quite so special effect laden because the main story is basically noir horror. So
Right, exactly. And I think this book I'm holding in my hand, look at that. Oh, you can't.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I chose a grass background because I was talking to you on Zoom. I thought, Jeff will.
Well, I mean, I got to tell you, Max, I don't think that is actually a grass that's native to Texas, and it does look like it's just like your normal irrigated lawn. But I do appreciate you trying.
What are your opinions on grass? I bet you have a bunch. Like, do you cut grass or do you leave it grow always?
I don't have grass for the most part.
Oh, you hate grass.
I mean, the thing is that in the side backyard and everything else with the slope, it would make no sense to try to put in grass, except there's native grass that grows that looks more like clumps of stuff. It doesn't look like a lawn.
Yeah.
In the front, I do have a very short strip of what's basically grass.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like a low-lying wildflowers. And what I do is that comes up in the spring and looks disheveled for like 2 weeks. And then everything goes to seed. And I mow that down. And then the neighbors can look at it and say, oh, he's gone back to normal. It looks like a normal lawn. At the old house, I had to do things like pretend to weed whack. And that was enough.
Yeah.
As long as you go through the rituals of having a lawn and it doesn't get too tall, people are like, he's a good dude. He's doing his duty by the lawn. He put a little fence around his wildflowers, so now I don't want to complain to the city because there's a little fence around them. That's the kind of thing. Do you like my impressions, by the way? I really think I should be an actor. I don't know what the hell I'm doing there.
Have you thought about acting?
Let's put it this way: my stepson Jason Kennedy is the casting director for the NCIS shows, and he should be able to cast me in something. And he will not even cast me as a distant figure walking up a hill. Like, I've said, I can be a rock. I can be a tree. I can just be a person in the background walking. It's like, no, I do not trust your acting skills, even to that extent. He's actually right. I mean, that's one reason, why I'm a writer, because I can't draw, I can't act. In fact, if I hadn't found amazing people like Jeremy Zerfoss to do the visuals, I don't know what I'd be doing on some of these books, because I really do have a visual nature, but it only expresses itself in the writing.
Yeah, I think you shouldn't give up on this acting dream, though. You should.
you were just looking for trouble. You just want that. You just want me to get canceled on some social media platform,
what would be the reason?
Up in millions of views. Oh, this poor guy.
What would be the reason of getting canceled? Oh, Jeff wants to act. Nope.
Yeah, I think that would probably do it. I mean, if I was especially if it was a musical, because I cannot sing to the point where I can't, for those board games, hum a tune because it all just sounds like the same song. So you don't have like a Hummingbird Salamander theme song you could sing for us at all? No. The only song I know, and this is because my mom sang it as a child. There's two. Okay, one was the theme from Pete's Dragon, which thankfully I've fucking forgotten. Okay. I mean, we had to go to Pete's Dragon when it was in the theater, the original. I'm not fucking kidding you. Or in reissue, I can't remember, like 30 times. Okay, this is how much my mom was obsessed with it. But the other one was White Christmas, which I still remember the beginning of. Do you want to hear some singing? Yeah, I do. Because I've never done this for a podcast before. Please do it. I will never get invited back. Okay, so here you go. Just a tiny little bit. It's terrible. I'm dreaming of a white Christmas, just like the ones. I can't even. Oh man, that's actually really bad. I'm a little hoarse anyway. So, are you alone in this house at the moment? Well, here's the thing, Max. It's actually my anniversary. I'm doing this podcast on
Oh
my
no.
anniversary, which has caused incredible friction between me and my wife. And this may be the final straw. But you insisted
I
that it
did.
be this day.
Yeah.
You insisted it actually, that you
You
take this time
yeah.
from us. Uh, you know,
I
and
definitely didn't say any day that you want. And you definitely didn't
no,
say
Max, you
Wednesday.
said it has to be this day. And I don't know if you knew and you were just like,
Yeah.
trying to mess things up, but
Well, if you need some place to live, I mean, you can come live with me.
in your grass lawn.
Yeah, I do. I am an ant, which makes a lot of sense in retrospect.
No, I just for the record, Max didn't force me to do it today, but it did make sense to do it today. We are going out on an excursion this afternoon, which is probably not a wise idea because it's like 100 degrees, and the place we're going is probably going to be full of anti-maskers. But we'll probably just drive there and then come right back.
What do you want to talk about what you have planned, or is that too private for the podcast?
No, it's just weird since things aren't really completely reopened and we are fully vaccinated, and we wear masks and stuff. But it's like the idea of going to like Thomasville, Georgia, which is nearby and has like a nice little downtown, but they were also the most virulent like anti-maskers during when the height of the pandemic, and it was horrifying to see pictures during that of people just walking around maskless. So it feels weird to like go there, even though it would be safe for us. So we're going to a little town called Havana that has a few little shops and is closer. And again, I don't know if it's actually a good idea or not. It just feels so strange to be going out somewhere at all, but it also just feels strange to celebrate by just doing the same shit that we've done every day for the last 18 months. So
I mean, at least you got to celebrate by doing a podcast.
yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. This might become no, it won't. A new tradition. Yeah, it might.
It's
Max.
definitely going to become a new tradition. Every you come back.
Well, I mean, we do have a birthday tradition we sometimes use for anniversary, which is that one birthday. No, actually, it was our anniversary. It's an anniversary tradition. I'm getting old. Where there was no other movie in the theater that wasn't sold out, and so for our anniversary, we went to Naked Lunch. And so our tradition is every anniversary we go to see some weird ass movie that is not the typical like romantic thing that you would see.
Yeah, that's cool. What else have you seen besides Naked Lunch?
I think there was Eraserhead for one. Gosh, what else would it be? Not oddly, some of the same directors with their recent movies.
It makes
right?
sense. My wife and I have the same birthday, so every time it's a birthday, we watch Zodiac. Just the same movie every year. The movie Zodiac. So if you haven't seen that, if you guys haven't gone to see that in your anniversary, that's a good suggestion. Watch Zodiac.
Well, I actually just saw it recently, and I was surprised because I remember seeing it in the theater and like liking it, but not loving it.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen it twice since, and each time I like it better.
Yeah,
which is not a phenomenon that usually happens for me with movies.
Yeah.
I've seen 3 recent movies where we almost couldn't finish them. They were so bad. I'm pretty sure they're not going to get better.
I sent you that advanced link on my movie in confidence that you wouldn't talk shit about it on this podcast.
I'm going to be absolutely honest. It's been such a chaotic couple of months that I somehow missed the fact you had sent me an advanced link, and I'm not at all just saying that because I've seen the movie and hate it. Yeah. I honestly don't.
Because I didn't send it to you. This was a joke.
Well, thank God, because I was feeling really guilty. It's like, shit, do you want me to stop this podcast long enough to watch it? Or do you want to watch it? Do you want to watch my reaction as I'm watching it and that be the podcast?
Kind of. But I don't think I'm allowed to. Okay, so I mean, I could ask you a lot of questions about this book, but I have a feeling that you've answered questions after questions about it. Am I correct?
I don't know. It just depends. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, if you want to do a game where you ask me a question I've already answered it, I could just say next.
Well, you could ask me questions you've been asked about it, and I can answer it. No, don't do that.
I can't remember.
So, Jeff, what inspired this novel?
I don't know.
Good.
I honestly don't know.
Yeah, it's a bad question, right?
No, I don't know that's a bad question. It's just that this is one of those novels where I feel like I'm reconstructing an answer and I
Yeah.
honestly don't remember. So I've for several interviews, I've been like, well, there was this central image of this huge hand holding a tiny hummingbird, which is kind
Yeah.
of recycling what I said about Born and Born being held by Rachel or initially. And I don't know if that's actually true. It's one of those things where I do think that the whole storyline came to me all at once, and maybe that's why I don't remember.
Yeah.
Not the ins and outs of some of the stuff, not the role like Hellmouth was going to play as this nefarious person who texts Jane, the heroine, all the time and
Yeah.
kind of like interferes with what's going on. But the general arc of the story. And then I think the main thing is that the first line about assume I'm dead when you read this, I think was pretty pivotal in also deciding what kind of genre I was working in.
That's a great
Uh,
line, great opening line. It immediately gripped me as soon as I opened the book. Like, okay,
oh,
yeah.
thanks.
And but this book is also written in a less like experimental way than some of the previous books you've put out recently. Like, how do you like? Is this less fun or more fun to you, like writing style wise?
It's a different kind of fun. I mean, I got to be
Yeah,
honest, Dead Astronauts just wrung me out. It was just
yeah,
an emotional intensity that you had to keep going with each scene that really wouldn't work if it wasn't for the fact it's basically kind of like a long prose poem. I mean,
hmm
it's kind of like a hybrid and whatnot. But you can't do that all the time, and you don't want to, because working in that register all the time becomes wearying. Book to book, I think, also for readers. At
yeah,
the same time, I'm totally aware of the fact that there are people, like Dead Astronauts. It's hilarious if you go on Goodreads, right? Because it's
hmm
like, this was an amazing experience. I just loved letting this flood over me, and the ending's amazing. And then this is a worthless piece of 1-star shit. What is this author trying to pull on me?
yeah.
Why did I have to read this? And it's like, you didn't have to read it, dude. But I know that there are some of the 5-star Dead Astronauts people who are now like, what the fuck is this mundane hummingbird salamander shit? Why is there closure? And it's like, well, there's closure because I need to feed my family. No, but honestly,
Yeah,
there is an awareness, in picking what I'm going to do next, as to what I did before. And one of the differences is, one of the things I think about it is there enough of a contrast for me to be interested in doing it? Because I can do Dead Astronauts all day long, whether anyone wants it or not. I can work in that register, but do I want to? Does it push me after a certain point? And it doesn't, any more than any other kind of fiction does if I don't switch it up. But then also, I do think, like, there's good reason why Shriek and Afterward was followed by a Predator tie-in novel, right? And that's an extreme example, but the fact is that, if I want to have a career, I have to think about the sequencing of these projects. It doesn't mean that there's a project I never do because I think it's too uncommercial. It just means my preference is to follow something uncommercial with something that at least appears to be more quote unquote normal. That seems to work well, both for my interest in terms of what I want to write about, and then also about having a sustained career. So you'll often see that, like Finch, for example, coming after Shriek, has a much more of a traditional structure, is less experimental. And it just happened that was the way the third book was going to end up, but it also was useful that publishing wise, that's how the sequencing went. So I don't know if that makes me sound mercenary. It's not meant to. It's still about the creative decisions, but I often have like 5 different novels in my head and notes about them, and I want to write them all, and I will in time. So then it just becomes about the sequencing.
right. That makes total sense. I think it's a good way to keep like it's a good reason, like an explanation for why you've managed to like build up such a good fan base, because
Mm.
you do keep switching it up and no one can really expect what the next one's going to be, if it's going to be like a say Annihilation or a long poem like Dead
Right.
Astronauts.
Well, well, and then also, but it can be dangerous. I mean, it's like I've been really lucky with Hummingbird Salamander that people who like thrillers and dark noir and stuff have responded to it, but then it's also kind of like, gosh, well, I can't even say this, but there's also certain kinds of there's certain readers who don't respond to it, because maybe they just don't like the book, or it just doesn't work for them. In some cases, I think it's because they're thinking of thriller as something different than I think of as thriller. Just like,
what do you think it is?
well, I mean, I always respond to like the down and out detective, like the Southern California model of like the down and out detective who, you know, yeah, they have some insight, but they're also always getting like the shit kicked out of them, and they're always in over their heads. They're always working against forces that are they're not in control. They don't have as much agency as they think. Sometimes they're even world weary enough to know they don't have agency. And so I think one of the dangers in writing a book like Hummingbird Salamander, and again, this is separate from the idea of like a reader who gets it and they just don't like it, right? And that happens, and that's totally legitimate. But I think that if you think that characters should have a lot of agency all the time, and that someone exploring a mystery is always going to be competent, that's not really what the book is about.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of, say, books and movies about like the ultimate badass who knows everything and can fight anyone and is never defeated. There's no fun in that. I love to read and watch things that involve a protagonist who doesn't really know what's going on and messes up. I love a protagonist who disappoints, who messes things up and doesn't like. Did you see the movie The Nice Guys?
I feel like I did a long time ago. Yeah. Or it couldn't have
Okay.
been that long ago because it was like what, last year or something.
It came out a few years ago, but we also
Okay.
just finished 2020, and that was like a decade long. So that's
2020.
why. Yeah, have you heard about that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, the year 2020. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay.
I'm like writing down the title. Oh, 2020. Oh shit, that shit show. Okay, got it.
I was gonna use that as an example of the ending, but if it's not too familiar with you, then I'm gonna strike that from the record because it would be it would be useless.
2020 is very familiar to me, unfortunately.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the year and not something else.
I was talking about the movie The Nice Guys that came out before
Sorry.
2020. It's okay. I think we're almost at the end of this episode because we're both dying of delirium. And plus, you have to go. I mean, it's a big day.
Yeah, that's right.
It's the day you
Which
came
you've
on
completely
Ghoulish.
ruined.
Oh,
The middle of.
I mean, you got to sing. That's cool.
That's true. It's most people don't allow me. It's in the rider it's in the requirements for the podcast that I not sing.
Have you tried to sing on previous podcasts and they've like said no, stop?
No, I've never actually tried to.
Oh,
there's actually several things about this podcast that are unlike any other podcast I've done before. So,
I was going to ask you before we go, have you had many run-ins with the with any HOAs?
No, because we didn't have an HOA at the old house, and there's no HOA here. In fact, we deliberately avoided neighborhoods that had HOAs. And, you know, and some of them, like there's one near us where it's like a loose association of people that is fairly benign, although that also has its risks, because in this particular case, I was told, because there was an issue going on that still affected us a little bit. Oh, if any one person in our HOA objects to something, then we can't do it. So it's like they're benign in that you don't have to have your lawns cut perfectly so or anything, but they also are completely inert. So they might as well not even be an HOA, which, you know, there's got to be some middle ground between those two. But no, and the neighbors have been, you know, pretty kind about either being supportive about the rewilding or being neutral about it. And being neutral really has to do with being kind enough, if they're an immediate neighbor, not to use herbicides and things like that, because it's really cruel if like I'm able to bring in pollinators and butterflies and then they get killed off because of what the yards right next to us are doing, you know, because they don't recognize the boundary, you know.
So I assume you've had like conversation with neighbors about like maybe don't do this.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
no,
good.
absolutely.
Cool.
And you know, sometimes it results in me working for free, which is fine, which is to say that there's one neighbor where for a while I was weeding out stuff they didn't like so that they wouldn't use herbicide on it. But, you know, as far as I'm concerned, that's not a terrible trade-off, especially because the stuff that they were weeding out was something that I don't want to come into my yard either. I just don't want to use herbicide on it, you know.
Yeah,
so
I got you. I have an awful HOA at in my community. Yeah, they send like spies and vehicles just like driving around, and then we get emails of like a photo of like a weed that's too high, like you guys need to fix this. It's like, calm down.
Are you serious?
It's not great. What do I do, Jeff?
That just sounds very fascistic. That doesn't, I mean,
It
I mean,
is.
first of all, it's absurd. It's like it's that dark absurdism I'm talking about. Like in a story, those
Yeah.
would just be buffoons because who spends their time doing that, right?
Yeah.
Not to get you in trouble if anyone hears this, but
Oh, please
um,
do. I have the same conversations with my wife. It's like, what must it be like to have
yeah.
that much free time?
Well, I mean, one thing that if I was getting really aggressive with it is I would probably turn it back on them as like a surveillance issue, an invasion of privacy issue to some
Yeah.
degree. But I think it's tough. I mean, sometimes at the old house I was able to convince someone to stop using basically pesticide
Mhm.
uh because they were a conspiracy theorist about like big corporations and stuff, and once I convinced them that big pesticide was not their friend,
Yeah.
then that just fit into that world. It didn't have to be an environmental message, and of course it is actually a conspiracy,
Yeah.
just through the lobbyists and everything, so I wasn't inaccurate about that. But yeah, it's tough, and it's I would have to know more about the people involved. I you know I have friends who are much better at this than I am because I'm not
Mhm.
very diplomatic. Like one reason I'm
Same.
not going to ever run for city or county commissioner is that I wouldn't last through one meeting because I'd be like, "What is this bullshit?"
Mhm.
But the fact is that I can be persistent and I can be polite most of the time, but I also can't have a short fuse on this stuff just because you have all this incoming from your social media that shows you the damage being done to the world, and then in your own neighborhood you shouldn't have to deal with that, right? You
Right.
should be able to find some way to mitigate it. So you know I don't know. I could come there next time I'm in Austin and I could
Yeah.
talk to them.
I was gonna suggest
um,
that. Yeah.
I
I will.
usually bring a super soaker filled with orange juice.
Delicious.
um,
How much pulp is involved in that? Like, is it
it just
no pulp?
depends on how much force I want to exert.
That sounded disgusting.
I don't even know what that means. Like, I do keep a super soaker around with orange juice in case there's a feral cat, which was a problem at the old house because they do not like citrus. And you definitely don't want to shoot them in the face with it because it could hurt their eyes. But
Yeah.
if you shoot them in the butt with it and they get that stuff on them, they rarely will come back to your yard.
Do you often change it out, or is it like a? Is this like loaded
No, you
with
just let it
OJ?
ferment. You let
Oh
it
my god.
ferment, and then eventually
Okay.
your super soaker explodes from the pressure of the fermentation. I don't know. No, I don't let it sit. I mean,
If someone broke into your home, do you think you would go for that super circle as a way to defend yourself? I mean,
no.
you
I,
do have
I have
stand your
I have
ground.
a baseball bat with spikes in it.
Oh,
That's what I would do to an
nice.
intruder. So
Nice. How,
I
did
don't
you?
believe in carrying a gun, but I
Yeah.
absolutely would beat the living shit out of somebody who came inside the house. So
Do you? Did you buy it with the nails in it, or did you make it that way?
I made it that way. I was
Yeah.
inspired by Mad Max,
Yeah. That's me.
and by that I mean you.
Yeah.
No, it's just a regular baseball bat. It doesn't have spikes.
Oh, that's disappointing. I was going to ask you to hold it while singing White Christmas.
I feel like that would give the wrong. Well, I mean, I feel like this whole podcast is giving the wrong impression. But I just literally don't. After I'm just punch drunk after like 52 of these, so
Yeah.
you caught me at the right or the wrong moment. But yeah. So
All right, I think that's
I'm
good.
sorry this has been so lacking in informational.
You have not
Buy my
listened.
book.
You have
Buy
not
my
listened
book.
to a previous episode of this podcast. This is
I
right
mean, I
on
think
brand.
yeah, I mean, if I say buy my book like I'm in a hostage video, that'll help a
Yeah.
lot. So buy
Yeah.
my book.
Can you sing it like you sung White Christmas?
Buy my book.
Never mind.
Buy my book. Buy my book. Buy
Yeah.
my book. Hummingbird Salamander. All right, that's the best I can do, or the
That's
worst.
pretty good. I mean,
It's
both.
terrible.
It's not
terrible.
great, but
It's not great.
there's a reason I'm not singing. So great.
Oh
End
no
of
no no
episode-
no no
yeah.
no! I want you to end by singing.
What do you want me to sing?
I want to sing about how much I want you to sing about how much you loved whatever part of Hummingbird Salamander you read.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Let me open it.
So you read the first line, you're like, "Damn, this is a great haiku."
I like. Stop. I like this line a lot. Assume I'm dead by the time you read this. That's pretty good.
I didn't realize I was actually doing like an old school blues
I assume
novel.
Tom Waits did the
Oh
audiobook.
God. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
That'd be
That's
amazing.
and actually, to be serious for just a second, that you brought up
Please.
the audiobook by Lisa Flanagan is pretty amazing. I don't want to diss
Yeah.
that because it's really good. So.
Yeah, I listened to the interview you did with Phil this
Oh, you did?
morning.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
I know Tom Waits didn't do it. That was a
Yeah.
joke. That was a joke I made.
And in all seriousness, too, I should just say, assume I'm dead by the time you hear this podcast. So, yeah.
And that was Jeff VanderMeer talking about erotic bugs. I apologize if he offended you. I did not expect him to agree to come on this show. What a surprise! What a surprise! Go buy Jeff's book, Hummingbird Salamander, and go buy the books that I published at perpetualpublishing.com. Go over to Patreon at patreon.com/PMMpublishing. Throw us a buck or two, and go on iTunes and rate and review the podcast. What's that podcast called? You already know, dummy. It's Ghoulish. Go to Ghoulish and rate and review us. Unless you want to leave a bad review, then don't do that. I would prefer you didn't. Thank you. Goodbye.
Live spooky, die spooky.